All right, Aquarius, welcome to your June 2026 reading. I'm always excited for the Aquarius reading because I am an Aquarius sun myself, and there's usually a little tidbit in there for me as well as for the person watching. So let's see what comes up. Let's give it another shuffle. All right, so first we have the Knight of Wands. Next we have the King of Cups. And we have the Three of Wands, the Two of Swords, and the Page of Wands. Okay. So it looks like there's a bit of a reoccurrence of a past pattern, something that has happened before several times, and there's kind of this expectation that what happened last time is most likely going to happen again this time. And whatever it is that you may be working on or waiting for or moving towards in your life, there's kind of this feeling of like, here we go again. With Mercury retrograde coming up in about a week, that definitely tracks. This tends to happen. So a situation that probably comes back, maybe quarterly for every year, like, every few months, a certain situation circles back around and it's gone maybe badly in the past. And there's kind of this expectation that it's going to be the same as always. But your ability to see where things are going, there's not a lot of clarity about what's really going to happen. Is this going to work out? Is this thing going to come to me? Am I going to succeed in this? Or, uh, there's just like you don't have enough information to really know where things are heading. There's just a general sense of like, well, I can kind of guess. It's kind of a here we go again. But this situation is kind of another chance for healing, to face whatever feelings come up in relation to this pattern. Because if it's happened many times before, there's clearly something there you need to learn before things can actually can kind of move forward and this pattern can change and things won't just turn out the way they did before. But this inability to see, to foresee what's going to happen or if what you're doing is going to have any effect or if it's going to work, it brings a bit of a sense of insecurity, anxiety, sort of just feeling just unsettled with the whole situation, whatever it may be in particular. And just this anticipation, maybe constantly checking your phone for results or for a call or a text or just kind of always being on the lookout for that thing that you feel like should be coming in, but maybe in the past it didn't. You were waiting on things to work out to come in and didn't happen, or something just went wrong. And now there's kind of a nervousness of just kind of constantly waiting, looking out at those boats there, just like, is it coming? Is it here yet? Is it there yet? Um, so we've got that's the beginning here of this situation. Let's pull some more cards and see what else we have that comes up. Okay, so Ten of Swords, the Devil, the Hierophant, Nine of Wands again, and the Six of Wands. Okay. So there's this general sense of like whatever this recurring pattern may be, you're just absolutely exhausted with it, just kind of fed up. You don't want to deal with this anymore. You desperately want it to end. Um, and let's see. Yeah, so there's a tendency to maybe assume the worst, just this cyclical thinking. Um, but whatever this is, if it's a project or something, or maybe a relationship of any kind, there's kind of this idea that whatever it is that you're waiting to happen involves the idea of needing to kind of gain the approval of other people, maybe a group of other people. And there's this kind of hesitation and maybe a sort of view that, like, this is never going to work. No one's going to care about this, like, or I'm going to just do my best and it's not going to be enough. Um, and the Hierophant here doesn't quite entirely seem to line up with the rest of this reading. Although I do feel like this reading is talking to me, talking about my attempt to restart my YouTube channel again. Here's me giving my readings, and my life path card is the Hierophant. This tends to have to do with ancient traditions and spiritual knowledge and sort of being like a teacher or somebody who's passing down information or knowledge. So let's pull some more cards and see how that card sort of fits into this reading. All right, so we've got the Hermit, we've got the Seven of Wands, we've got the Five of Wands, and the Moon. Let's do one more. Six of Cups. All right, so whatever this is for you, the Hermit is kind of saying that, like, this is not something anyone's telling you to do or trying to encourage you to do or discourage you from doing. It's just something that you feel like is right for you. And there's this sense of like, doesn't really matter whether anyone tells me to do things or not, I'm going to do what I feel is right anyways. The Hermit tends to be, while somewhat isolated, also is unaffected by the outside world or other people's beliefs or opinions and sort of follows his own inner light. But as you continue to work on or pursue whatever it is that you're trying to create or maintain, it's like you run into all kinds of conflicts. It's like the universe fights you every step of the way, and creates sort of a sense of like, the moon is interesting because my favorite part of the moon is the little lobster down there at the bottom of the card, because lobsters have a unique sort of physiology where their brain is actually spread out through their whole body. And this always makes me think of like awareness of the nervous system, like an energy moving through your nervous system, through your body, that kind of causes you to kind of misperceive yourself, see yourself in a light that might not actually be true, where, the dogs are barking at the moon. Again, going back to this sense of like assuming the worst. But this situation is kind of meant to force you to heal some. This is related to some kind of old, like, childhood wound, you know, uh, where, the pattern that seems to be emerging here is this idea of assuming the worst. Something happened before, maybe multiple times, and there's always this assumption that it's going to happen again. But you're kind of being forced into. I pulled another couple of cards here. Confronting this, the fact that you may be the one getting in your own way when you kind of assume the worst, and when things don't quite go your way as quickly as you'd like, you may kind of get in your head about it and start, kind of fantasizing or daydreaming, or sort of, the Nine of Swords really is an indication. It's like anxiety, but it's not about anything real. It's all in your head. So if you're playing out these scenarios in your head of things going wrong, even though there's not really any indication as of yet that anything's going to go badly, it seems that the universe is kind of pushing you to let go of that, walk away from it, walk away from the past. And in some ways, your assumption that the future is going to be a repeat of the past and the feeling that comes along with that is kind of what can cause that self-fulfilling prophecy. Your reality is a reflection of your state of consciousness, and if that state of consciousness is kind of feeling pessimistic and dreading that things are just going to happen the way they always do, then you end up, that creates a specific kind of feeling that ends up making that reality manifest again. So this is kind of trying to make you confront this tendency, this sort of assuming the worst case scenario type thinking. Um, and maybe if you have given up, maybe you've tried to work towards something and put a lot of time and effort into something in the past, and then you run into this situation we're talking about here, maybe just in a different form, and then you decide to give up, maybe before things can go wrong, like quitting before you even fail because you're assuming you're going to fail. And so this comes back again and again, every several months or so, maybe a couple times a year, perhaps, whatever it is. It's a cycle, and you're meant to face this and heal this. The Knight of Cups is like gaining an intellectual understanding of your internal world, your inner emotions, and kind of, sorting them out and recognizing them for what they are and not letting them sort of push you around and drive your actions. So let's see what else we got. All right. So we have the Two of Pentacles. the Knight of Swords, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Emperor. Maybe we'll do one more. Five of Cups. So you may come across a situation where you feel like you run into a roadblock, like the universe itself is trying to tell you to stop. Nope, can't go, better give up. But I think if you continue on, you may find, just don't let it phase you. Don't let it convince you. Whatever, if you run into a situation where it seems like you run into a physical situation that seems to block your path and tell you, no, this is not the way to go. Um, Maybe don't buy it, don't believe it, just keep going. Move forward without knowing where it's going, move forward into the unknown without fear. That's kind of what the Knight of Swords represents. Because in a way, this assumption of failure may be actually rooted in a fear of success. Maybe there's a deep-seated feeling, like maybe you don't think of it this way consciously, but maybe there's a feeling, like underlying feeling in the back of your mind, that maybe you don't deserve to be the one who's, calling the shots and in charge and being the boss, you know. Um, and what you're running into is sort of forcing you into this like emotional release. Um, so it's a frustrating path. It seems it's like there's all kinds of obstacles. It almost like your own mind is trying to tell you to stop. Um, the circumstances, problems, blockages start to pop up that seem to be telling you to stop, but you kind of have to resolve that, like, if this is something you truly want, with that hermit card earlier, if you feel like this is something that you really want to do, not for the sake of money or for the sake of public praise or for the material things you may gain from it, like if you're trying to continue down a path for its own sake because it feels like that is who you are and what you need to do, then you won't be deterred by the obstacles and continuing to push through, because this is something that you truly feel like you resonate with, ultimately leads to you facing those feelings that have been sort of blocking you in the past and processing them, and working out your karma, so to speak. The Wheel of Fortune could easily be called the Wheel of Karma. The process of your internal feelings and state of consciousness manifesting as an external circumstance. And so this sort of roadblock that you seem to maybe encounter can kind of be like the old patterns kind of last attempt to get you to see if you'll buy into the old way of thinking of things. The repeat the pattern again. And chances are, if you do stop whatever this is that you're moving towards, if you give up on it now, chances are in about 3 to 6 months you're going to come back and try it again, because you've probably already done it several times. Um, But ultimately, I think if you can stick with this path, you will find success. It just might be a long path, and it's more, view it more as a process that is meant to sort of squeeze the old emotional trauma, the residue from past experiences, which ultimately, in most cases, they tend to revolve around the idea of self-worth. There's always some element of a subconscious pattern that says I only deserve this and not this, and it tends to always come down to that in almost every situation. um, Anyways, I think we're going to end it there. Thanks for watching. If you want to get a private reading or go in learn about the cards, the signs, the planets, I have a website down below with all of that. You can book readings, and there's a blog. Anyways, you can just check it out. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Take care.